Hello everyone, welcome to For Its Namesake. I'm Martina and this is my daughter Valentine, and today we are going to talk about stereotypes and can we change them? For those of you who don't know what a stereotype is, because I really didn't know what it was either. My son went through a phase where he was into stereotypes and I didn't even know really what he was talking about, so I had to look it up. The stereotype is a widely held idea of a particular type of a person. So an example here would be, you've probably heard of this one, boys will be boys. That would be a stereotype. People thinking that boys will be boys in the sense of that they are always, all boys are always going to be misbehaved. That's usually what that means, right?
Rambunctious.
Right. Exactly. I thought it was more on the end of that they're always going to be sporty. But no, I'm thinking, I was told that boys will be boys is more of a negative thing in the sense that they're always, rambunctious and badly behaved. But that's not always the case. We've seen lots of boys who are very well behaved. So that stereotype is going to have to go. Okay. Do you know some other? We'll just kind of like popcorn, kind of throw out some different stereotypes and see if we can change them or if they can be changed.
Another one is all blondes are stupid. That's not true at all. I don't know who came up with that. Maybe they just knew one blonde person. They spread that lie around. There's lots of blondes who are in college and learning all these mathematics.
Yes, now I have to say something about that. Or, all blondes are dumb or airheadish. They're kind of, or they're clumsy or careless. Valentine, believe it or not, when she was a little girl, around the age of 4, mainly 3, 4, 5, she was, I'd say even up until probably maybe your tweens, like 13 or so, was very, very blonde, had very, very dark, very, very light blonde hair, and so she was always kind of on the, no offense, but she was kind of, seemed like just airheadish sometimes, or just careless, clumsy is the word I'm looking for. Just drop things, or we would ask her a question and she just kind of look at us funny. And so I always would say to her, once a blonde, always a blonde. So even though she's not blonde anymore, sometimes she'll, we all can be airheadish. We can all be stupid. We can all be clumsy at times. But I would just keep remembering when she was a little girl and blonde, and so she would do something clumsy or silly, I'd say, well, once a blonde, always a blonde, and that's not right. That's a stereotype that I need to erase from my mind.
Although it is true, I'm still very clumsy today. I'm the one who's always stubbing her toes.
Yes. But she's actually very smart. She really is. I mean, I think she is. Yeah, you did better in math than I did. Okay, let's see, what's another one? Well, we said boys will be boys. What about all girls are crybabies? I know that I was a crybaby like crazy when I was a little girl growing up, and even into high school. I would cry all the time. Somebody would say something mean to me and I would just cry like a baby, and they'd say, oh, you little crybaby, Martina's the crybaby, now where's the diaper? I mean, they were mean to me, but I did cry a lot, easily, because people are so mean to me. So
but that's not always girls. I knew a little boy who very sensitive prone.
That's right, yeah. That's true. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about, here's one that'll fit us. People that are homeless because they're lazy. I've heard of that one. And I've even thought that to myself before I was homeless. When I was just a regular person like y'all out there, I would see these homeless people walking around, and immediately I would jump to conclusions and think to myself, and most of them were men in their 50s, 60s age range, somewhere around there, and I think to myself, they're just lazy. That's why they're homeless. They don't want to work. They'd rather just bum around and stand on the corner of the streets and ask for money. Now, the city where we live in right now, people don't do that. I think that's not allowed. Probably the police would come and do something about that. But where we used to live, people stood on the street all the time. Just, these men, and would you believe that a lot of people actually gave them money? I mean, they're probably wealthy people by now with all the money they got. So, that's not true, because we had mentioned before on several videos that we did try to get jobs, and in the past we did work in more than one job. So we're not lazy, and we do work. I mean, we're working for the Lord right now, and that's quite a bit of work. So if we weren't doing that, we would just sit around and just twiddle our thumbs. Now that would be lazy.
Yeah.
So people are gonna have to change that stereotype. We can't automatically assume just because someone's homeless. Sometimes people are homeless. I watched a documentary once, and I'm not supporting Oprah, but she had a documentary once this was years ago, on why people are homeless. And believe it or not, there were a lot of them that said, I lost my house to a fire. I lost my whole family. I mean, devastating stories. Or I was an outcast, and because I have a certain disability, and I couldn't get a job, and here I am, and nobody wanted to be near me. Things like that. I mean, just horrific situations as to why people are homeless. Now, some people choose to be homeless. They prefer that because they don't have to worry about paying the bills and things like that. I did hear about that as well, but not once did some of them say, I'm lazy, I don't want to work. Now, maybe there are some out there, and they do drink and just do the drugs all day, and maybe they are lazy, but this particular documentary had about 10 different ones, and most of them were in the California area in Los Angeles, and we all know that has a lot of homeless people in Los Angeles. And I mean, everybody knows that. And they were just homeless because for those reasons that I had just given you.
Or think about the last year, Hurricane Helene.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yes.
Appalachia. There's a lot of those who are still without homes.
Yeah. There you go. So we can no longer say that the reason why people are homeless is because they're lazy. So that stereotype we can definitely change. We can erase that from the board. Okay, what's another one? Do you have some? I have some here, but do you have some that you came up with there or researched?
Another one. I was looking them up. One said guys are messy and unclean. There are quite a few men who are very neat, organized. And,
Yeah.
they later go into business and things. Not just a ladies thing that has to have their bed made. There are men who like to have their bed made too.
That's true, yeah. Or they have clean rooms,
Yeah.
orderly rooms. Yeah. Let's see, another one. People with disabilities are helpless and worthless. That's not true.
No.
I mean, I have seen actually quite a few, I don't know if they still call it a handicap now. I think they are called something else. People with Down syndrome, I think they're called special or instead of handicap, because that sounds negative. But back in my day, if we saw Down syndrome people, we would be thinking to ourselves, oh, the poor guy or the poor lady, she can't work. That's not true. There's a lot of people with Down syndrome that are working in a regular job, which is amazing. Or people with other disabilities, people in wheelchairs. I saw one in a wheelchair, and he was working in a physical therapist office, and I thought, how can he be of help? Well, he was using his arms and holding someone's leg up and saying, now move it up and move it down, and there he was sitting in his wheelchair, and I thought, that is awesome. Here he is in a wheelchair, and you could tell that probably he was born that way, because he just had some strain. They were just kind of odd looking legs, like he was born that way, but he was still able to work, which is amazing.
And Johnny Erickson taught him.
There you go.
She's quadriplegic, and she's working. She's
Yeah.
working all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You got some more? Let's have, I've got two more here, but I'm sure we can come up with a whole lot more.
But this one said, all Irish people are drunks and eat potatoes. Well, we know that's not true.
Okay.
And there's regular Irish people that go to work, and yes, they have the stereotype because there are pubs there, but it's not just Irish. England has pubs, and I don't think that we could talk here in America. We have bars, which is a little worse than pubs. Over there, pubs I learned is more of a family setting. It's not all just getting drunk. Here in America, there's lots of drunks out here, so
Yeah.
you can't really compare the two.
Right. Yeah. I never heard of that one. That's a good one. What about this one? And I don't even know if I'm using the right word, so please correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but all Latino immigrants bring crime. I don't know what you would call immigrants that are coming from I mean, obviously, if they're from Mexico, they're Mexican immigrants. But what about those that are coming from Venezuela or what's another one out there? Colombia, for example, trying to get away from harsh conditions in their own country and trying to find freedom in the United States. So whether illegal or not, Latino immigrants bring crime. That's what I've heard, that they're not to be trusted. And I personally myself have always been afraid of Mexican immigrants coming in because of that stereotype that we immediately think, oh, drugs, crime, cartels. But not all of them are. That's a stereotype again that is really out there, and we need to get rid of that one. We need to change it because that's not true.
In our city, we have quite a bit of Hispanics, Latinos who did come over from Venezuela.
Yes.
And they're working where my siblings are working, and they're doing just fine.
And they came from bad situations, and they know that it's a lot more. I mean, yes, we have crime here, but it's a lot more, how do I say, peaceful here than it is over there in their countries with a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great. I think it's like, wow, hats off to them for being bold and coming over here and starting a life new, sometimes without their families, kids separated from parents. They're usually, those Spanish groups are very close, knit families. They're very close to each other. Grandma, uncles, aunts, they're all very close together, sometimes all living in one house together, very close. And can you imagine being separated from each other because maybe only one could make it over and the others had to stay behind? That has got to be devastating. I mean, but I think that's great that they're willing to do that just so they can find a better living condition for them. But still, it's not right for us or for anyone to say, well, they're coming over here and they're bringing crime with them. Maybe there are some, but not all of them. Right. Maybe a few, if even that. So, yeah.
And they're not lazy either.
Right.
I've heard that sometimes they do the jobs that white people don't want to do, like take out the trash in the dumpsters.
Yeah. And a lot of them are actually very good with their hands. They're into carpentry, construction work, a lot of long hours of labor and hard manual work. And so I think that is great. Yeah. We can learn from them. That's what. Here's another one about racial stuff. Black people are good at sports. Not all black people are good at sports. I know several black people who actually admitted to me that they don't like sports. They don't have the muscles, and they're not tall like people assume black people are basketball players. I've heard of that one. Black people are basketball players. That's not always true. Now there's some that are actually short, but they play basketball. And but yeah, not all of them are into sports. Oh. Just like not all white people are into sports. So that was probably something, I heard that stereotype I heard years ago when I grew up. I don't know if that one's still out there now. I don't know.
I heard that too.
Yeah. Do we know of any others?
Well, when I looked up, we were talking about black people. This one said all white Americans are obese, lazy, and dim-witted.
Dim-witted? I've never heard that word.
Kind of not all there, I guess.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I will say it is true that we Americans have more opportunities to eat, and a lot of them are unhealthy compared to other countries where they're raising their own food and such.
Yeah.
And walking to work. But not all Americans are obese. I know quite a bit who are very careful what they eat in a healthy way.
Yeah. Well, that's what Europeans, I know that when I was spending quite a bit of time in Germany back in my growing up years, and I would tell them that I was from America because, my father was American, and they would laugh and say, and at that time I was actually quite slim. I looked like Valentine. I was not obese like I am now. And they would laugh and say, oh, you Americans, you all are fat. All you do is eat all day long and sit. And I thought, well, I'm not fat. And they said, well, yeah, but just give it some time. And sure enough, I guess they knew what they were talking about, because here I am and I'm fat. And I love to eat. I guess they were right. But when you go to Europe, if you ever go to Europe, there's not a whole lot of fat people around, especially in France. And there might be in Italy, because they like the pasta over there. but not in France and some of those other Scandinavian countries. I don't think there's a whole lot of fat people there. They take good care of their bodies, and they kind of look at us Americans here and go, oh my goodness, look at the population of obesity in the United States. It's kind of a frowned upon, really, and sometimes laughable, like they laughed at me when I was a kid. So yeah, I'm sure we can, there's a whole lot of different, I mean, I'd be curious to see what the stereotypes are of today, in today's generation. What are people coming up with? What are they saying that's not true about others? So if you know of any, please let us know. But in the meantime, we're going to share some scripture because, like we said, we always want to keep God in the center of our discussions. And I guess, do you want to go and read yours first?
Sure.
Okay.
This is from John 7:24. And this is Jesus talking. Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. Now, I think in this passage, Jesus was talking about something different because I guess he did something on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees, of course, got mad. But Jesus is saying, I have to do what I'm going to do. Don't judge by appearance, only what's right.
Yeah. Well, and then mine kind of goes along with that. I guess this is in Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. Judge not that you be not judged. For with that judgment you judge, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And I'm sorry, but I've got some kind of allergy going on. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm going to sneeze about 20 times.
Oh, no.
I don't know what's going on. So you'll have to excuse me there. But, yeah. So, this is probably talking about something else. But, I mean, we could still say that what it boils down to, what stereotypes boil down to, is judgments, discrimination upon people. And it's just not right. It's not biblical. It's definitely not biblical. So if we're Christians, then let's not conform to worldly beliefs and stereotypes. You know what I mean? Because it's not Christ-like.
No.
Yeah.
And those are exaggerations. Any stereotype is an exaggeration based on falsehood. Now, a situation, like I said, might have been true for people to come up with these things. Like, they just probably witnessed one person who did it, and now everyone else is that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Yep.
Right. We forgot to do that. We should have gone back and checked to see how stereotypes came about. But we wanted to do it to be kind of a casual conversation, you know, kind of like we're having. All that's missing right now is a piece of cake and some coffee or tea. Let it be kind of a casual conversation, kind of like a coffee, tea time, whatever conversation.
Hot cocoa for me, please.
Yeah. So, if you have any stereotypes that you know of, or some new ones out there, please put them down in the comments down below. We would sure like to know what other stereotypes are out there. And not that we're having fun with it, but it'll just be interesting to know. And, yeah. So we hope that you've enjoyed this little talk we've had.
And if you know someone who's stereotypical, you be the first to stop that conversation from going any further in a polite, respectful way.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't really laugh with others who think these falsehoods.
Right. Unless you're making fun of yourself, that's different. Like I was a while ago when I said that those Germans were right when they said, you Americans all you do is eat and get fat and sit around and do nothing. And then I just said, well, look at me. I'm skinny. Look. And they said, just give it some time. Wait till you're an adult. And they were right. So, you know, at that time, I can laugh about it now. So that's okay if I'm laughing about it, but we shouldn't be laughing at others.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Valentine's famous last words.
Well, thank you all for watching. We're so happy to have you here. And I don't know when this will air, but I just want to say thank you to all those who have been praying for my father. If you're new and you're not sure what's going on, you can read a past community post where We mentioned a prayer request for my dad's health. So thank you all. And
Yes.
we got some new
Thank you very
subscribers too. Hope you enjoyed the channel and are encouraged and blessed by it. And for everyone else, we hope that you like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video.
Okay. Bye-bye.